Have you ever wondered about the real history of the Americas and who its first inhabitants were? What if I told you that much of what we've been taught about Native Americans and the original people of this land is only part of the truth? There's a complex and fascinating story behind who really lived here first. Today, we're going to dive into a piece of history that many don't know, the story of the Black American Indians and how their identity was erased on paper, only to be replaced by what we now know as Native Americans. First, let's go back in time. Many of us were taught that Native Americans, the people we commonly associate with America's indigenous tribes, crossed the Bering Strait from Siberia thousands of years ago, settling the land and becoming the first Americans. But what if I told you that before these Siberian migrants arrived, there were already people here, not just any people, black people? That's right. The first inhabitants of the Americas were not only the Native American tribes we know today, but Black American Indians. They are the ones whose civilization existed long before the migrations from Asia ever took place. In fact, there is strong evidence suggesting that the civilization of black people in the Americas is older than many ancient African civilizations. Archaeological digs and discoveries from South America to the American Southwest have unearthed remnants of early societies that predate the commonly accepted timeline of Native American history. The Olmec heads, for example, found in Mexico, bear distinctly African features, showing the presence of black people in the Americas long before Columbus arrived or before the migrations from Asia. Now let's talk about the $5 Indians. The term refers to non-native people, many of whom were of European descent, who fraudulently claimed Native American heritage. This practice occurred primarily after the Dawes Act of 1887, a law that allowed Native American lands to be redistributed. During this time, non-natives paid government officials $5 to be officially recorded as Native American on paper. As a result, many white and non-black individuals were able to claim Native identity, taking land and resources that originally belonged to the true indigenous peoples. This erasure from the records and deliberate manipulation of who was considered Native American effectively removed Black American Indians from history. Over time, this rewriting of history led to the misconception that all Native Americans were those of Asian descent, while the Black Indians were pushed aside. Many of their descendants, today referred to as African Americans, are unaware that their ancestors were some of the original inhabitants of this land. Their heritage was erased and their national identity changed multiple times throughout history. First they were called Indians, then Negroes, then colored, and finally African American. Each change in identity was a calculated step to separate these people from their rightful claim to the land. So why would this happen? Why erase the existence of Black American Indians? The answer lies in colonization. By erasing the history of the true First Peoples, colonizers could claim the land as their own. It was easier to say that the land was uninhabited or that the people who were there had no significant civilization, allowing them to take control without acknowledging the original stewards of the land. In this way, the story of the Black American Indian was hidden, and a new narrative was crafted, one that painted Native Americans as descendants of Siberian migrants, completely disconnecting them from their African roots. It's important to note that the Native Americans we know today, who migrated from Asia, were also victims of displacement and colonization. However, their arrival in the Americas did not mark the beginning of human history on this land. Long before the migrations from Siberia, black people were already here, building civilizations, developing complex societies, and thriving. The DNA evidence is also compelling. Many African Americans today have a genetic makeup that links them to the Americas, not Africa. This doesn't mean that no black people were brought to the Americas from Africa during the transatlantic slave trade. Many were. But it does mean that there were already black people here long before the slave ships arrived. These original black inhabitants were different in culture and lineage from the African slaves brought over later, showing that not all black people in America came from Africa. So what can we take away from this? The history of Black American Indians reveals that the people we call African Americans are not a monolith. They have a rich and ancient connection to the land of North and South America. Their history was deliberately erased and replaced, so that others could claim the land as their own. But despite this erasure, the legacy of the Black American Indians remains, woven into the fabric of this country. It's time for us to revisit history with fresh eyes, to question the narratives we've been told, and to recognize the diverse origins of America's people. Black American Indians are the forgotten first people of this land, and their story deserves to be told.